I want you to just think back for a second. Picture it's, I don't know, 1995.
Right.
You could be anywhere. A club in Berlin, a school dance, maybe just up late watching TV.
Yeah.
And then you hear it.
Oh, yeah.
That bass line. Thump, 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 thump.
Yeah.
And then some synth riff that sounds like it just landed from space.
And a huge vocal hook that just gets stuck in your head for like the next 30 years.
Exactly. It wasn't just music. It felt like this physical thing.
It was absolutely inescapable. It really didn't matter where you were. A huge club in Europe, a sports stadium in the US, or even, and we'll definitely get to this, a Japanese arcade.
Right.
That sound was the soundtrack for the whole decade.
It really was. And I have to admit, for the longest time, I just filed all of it under 90s dance music.
Sure, most people did.
Or, let's be honest, the cheesy stuff.
Yeah.
The kind of thing you dance to at a wedding, maybe a little ironically. But today, we're doing a deep dive into what's actually called 90s Euro music. And after going through this MMR column and the sources, my whole perspective just flipped. I came in expecting nostalgia, and I left thinking this was a massive geopolitical event.
It's huge, and I'm glad you mentioned the cheesy bias because that's the entry point for so many people. But if you peel that back, it's not just about glow sticks. I mean, this is a story about the fall of the Berlin Wall, a tech explosion, and how a sound unified a continent.
The source calls it a feast of dance floors and melodies. I kind of like that.
It's the perfect description.
Okay, but before we get into the history, we have to clear something up because I realized I've been using the wrong words my entire life.
Yeah.
I thought Eurobeat was the name for all of it.
Ah, the classic mistake.
But the article is very clear. Euro music is the big umbrella. And under it, there's this whole ecosystem of different genres.
Right, and you have to get that distinction to really understand what was going on. Euro music is just the broad term for dance pop that came out of the European continent. It's this fusion of party culture, tech, dance, catchy melodies. The author calls it the modern European pop image.
Okay, let's break that image down. Because to my ear, it all just sounded like fast synthesizers. But the big one, the one that I think of when I hear, like, what is love? That's Eurodance.
Exactly. Eurodance is the Titan. That's your Two Unlimited, your La Bouche, your Hadaway.
And the defining thing there is the beat, right? That 4-on-the-floor beat.
That's it. That steady kick drum. Boof, boof, boof.
So,
Just drives everything forward.
okay.
And Eurodance usually has that very specific vocal combo. A male rapper on the verses, and then this huge, soaring female vocal for the chorus. It's pure drama for the club.
So that's the no limit sound, the stadium anthem.
Kuh.
But how is that different from Eurobeat? The article treats them as two totally separate things.
Because they are, and this is where it gets really interesting. Eurobeat is a different species entirely. It's way faster. I mean, we're talking a really high BPM. And it is just drenched in synthesizers.
So less of a stomp and more of a sprint.
That's a great way to put it, actually. Eurobeat riffs almost sound like electric guitars, but played on a keyboard at lightning speed. And it was mostly made in Italy, but, and this is a huge twist, it exploded in Japan.
Okay, so Eurodance is for jumping up and down. Eurobeat is for running a marathon.
Exactly. And the family tree keeps going. You had Eurotrance, which was like a pop version of trance music. Think DJ Quicksilver.
And what about Hi-NRG? That was in there too.
Yeah, Hi-NRG actually came a bit earlier. It started in gay clubs, really flashy electronic stuff. Patrick Cowley is a key name there. And you can't forget Italo-dance.
Right, the Italians.
Italy was a powerhouse. Italo-dance took the Eurodance formula but added this, I don't know, this unique melodic touch and a lot of vocal effects. That's where you get Eiffel 65.
The Blue Debadi guys.
The one and only. And then you have Europop, which is the most mainstream version. Think Ace of Base. It had the synths, but the songs were structured more like regular pop, sometimes with a little R&B or even reggae flavor.
It's wild to see it all laid out. It wasn't just random noise. It was all these specific styles. But this is where I want to get to the why. Because the article makes this really bold claim that you can't understand any of this music without understanding the year 1989.
The fall of the Berlin Wall.
Right. And I'll admit, at first I was like, really? We're going to connect the fall of communism to Scatman. But the timeline is perfect.
It lines up perfectly. I mean, think about Europe at that moment. The continent was divided physically and ideologically, and then boom, the wall comes down, the borders open up. There's this sudden feeling of optimism, of freedom.
And Europe becomes this cross-border entertainment market almost overnight.
Exactly. So you have a whole generation that can suddenly travel and party and connect with people from other countries, but you have one big problem.
The language barrier.
Yep.
You've got producers in Germany, Italy, Sweden, the Netherlands. They all want to sell music to each other. But a complex song in German probably isn't going to be a hit in France. So what do?
They switched to English.
They switched to English.
But the lyrics were, and I say this with all the love in my heart, not exactly Bob Dylan, rhythm is a dancer, life is life.
But that's the genius of it. That was a feature, not a bug.
Yeah.
The simplicity is the key point the article makes. The lyrics were simple. Yeah, sometimes they barely made sense. But it didn't matter.
Because the beat was the language.
The beat, the synths, those endlessly repetitive choruses, that became the common language. It was all about, as the source says, sensory pleasure over politics. After decades of Cold War tension, young people didn't want a protest song. They wanted a beat everyone could feel. A 140 BPM kick drum needs no translation.
Sensory pleasure over politics. That really explains the lightness of it all. It was a reaction against all that heaviness.
It was a celebration. So let's talk about how this sound actually took over. Because from 1990 to 1999, it was everywhere. The list of hits in the article is just, it's the soundtrack to my entire youth.
I mean, they're monolithic. Get ready for this by 2 Unlimited. 1991, the article calls it a Eurodance anthem.
I don't think I could watch a basketball game even today without hearing that riff. Dun, 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 dun.
And that shows its power. It went from clubs in Europe to American sports arenas. It became cultural wallpaper. Then you have Ace of Base, The Sign, in 93, a Swedish group hitting #1 on the Billboard Hot 100. That proved this wasn't just some European fad.
And it went beyond the U.S. and Europe, too. The article points to Corona's Rhythm of the Night,
which was an Italian production with a Brazilian singer, and it was a massive hit in Latin America. It just shows how flexible the sound was. It could fit in anywhere.
And we have to mention Eiffel 65's Blue again, 1999. That song was just inescapable.
That was the peak of that digital voice effect. Love it or hate it, it was a moment. A perfect pop technology moment.
You know, one thing the article brought up that really hit me with nostalgia was the format, the CD maxi single. Do you remember those?
Oh, absolutely. The maxi single was the engine of the whole culture.
Yeah.
Today, you stream one song and that's it. But back then, you bought the single.
And you get the radio edit, the extended club mix, some crazy trance remix, maybe an instrumental.
Exactly. And that's what made it so versatile. The DJ had the club mix. You had the radio edit for your car. The song could live in all these different worlds at once. One CD could be a pop hit and a hardcore club track.
And you had the visuals, too. MTV Europe was huge for this.
The source calls it a hub for visual dance culture. It was selling the whole package, the futuristic videos, the shiny outfits. It was a total aesthetic.
Okay, so this wave is just crashing over the West. But the part of this deep dive that genuinely shocked me was the connection to Japan. I had no idea that Japan was basically living in this parallel Euro music universe.
It's one of the most incredible parts of the column. While we were all consuming Eurodance, Japan developed this unique, obsessive culture around Eurobeat specifically.
And this is where that distinction we made earlier really matters. This super fast, super synth-heavy stuff.
Precisely. And this is where the company Avex comes in. They built their empire on this sound. They started a compilation series called Super Eurobeat.
And this was, like, a big deal.
It ran for decades, over 200 volumes. And it wasn't just for listening. The music was tied to a unique Japanese dance style called para-para.
I think I've seen videos of this. It's like synchronized hand dancing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Imagine a whole club all standing in rows doing these incredibly complex synchronized arm and hand routines to the beat. Eurobeat was the perfect soundtrack for that precise high-speed movement.
But it gets even wilder. We have to talk about the cars.
Initial D?
Yes. The memes. The little Toyota AE86 drifting around a mountain pass with this insane music blasting. I never knew that was Eurobeat.
That is the quintessential Eurobeat experience. The anime Initial D forever fused Eurobeat with Japanese car and drift culture. It's a perfect match when you think about it.
How so?
Well, drifting is all about high tension, high speed, technical precision. Eurobeat has that exact same heart rate. The synth riffs sound like a revving engine. You just can't separate Italian synthesizers from Japanese mountain racing anymore.
It's so bizarre. The perfect music for a Japanese subculture was being made by guys in studios in Italy.
And it gets even crazier. Japan didn't just import it, they started commissioning it. The article mentions reverse imports, where Italian and German producers were making tracks specifically for the Japanese market. Albums like Maharaja Night. They were making a living off the Japanese obsession.
That's a wild cultural feedback loop.
And it even influenced their own pop music. The producer Tetsuya Komuro and his Komuro family of Artists, groups like TRF, Globe, V6, they all started making J-pop with heavy Eurobeat and Eurodance influences. It became a native sound.
So in Japan, it wasn't a fad. It became part of the DNA of their pop culture.
Exactly. It stopped feeling foreign. It just became the sound of speed and excitement.
Okay, so despite millions of records sold, chart domination, entire subcultures, we have to talk about the critics.
Oh, they hated it.
They despised it. The article asks why and lists off the reasons. Simple structures, shallow lyrics, mass production. And, to play devil's advocate, were they wrong? I mean, a lot of these were producer projects with models lip-syncing. It was a little plastic.
It was absolutely manufactured. You had scandals where the person on the cover wasn't the one singing. And for a music critic raised on, authentic rock and roll, this stuff was the enemy. It was commercial. It was anonymous. It was seen as anti-art.
But the column pushes back on that, and I think I agree. It argues that the lightness was actually its greatest strength.
That is the core of the defense. The source calls it borderless pleasure. It wasn't trying to be deep poetry. It was designed for dancing and melody. And by stripping out all the heavy lyrical baggage, it could cross borders that serious music just couldn't.
It's the idea that sometimes you just need that dopamine hit from a good melody.
Exactly. If those songs had complex lyrics in German, they never would have worked in a club in Brazil or an arcade in Tokyo. The lyrical emptiness let everyone project their own joy onto it. It was just a pure vessel for energy.
So what does all this mean now? Because this isn't just a history lesson. The article suggests there's revival happening.
Oh, there's definitely a resurgence. In the 2020s, people are reevaluating it. You can hear its DNA in modern hyperpop, that super synthetic, high-energy sound. You see it in the whole Y2K aesthetic and fashion.
I've definitely seen the fashion coming back. Everyone looks like they're in a music video from 1999.
And the sound is right there with it. You've got this post-Eurodance thing happening in clubs, and the internet is playing the same role MTV used to. Well, look at how Japanese city pop blew up on YouTube a few years ago. The same thing is happening with Eurobeat. People discover it through initial D memes or find the old super Eurobeat albums on Spotify, and they get it. The streaming numbers are going up.
The reading list mentions Captain Jack. Remember him?
Of course. The German dance project with the guy in a military uniform shouting commands over a beat, it was completely absurd.
The source calls him a party maker.
And that's a vibe that never dies, especially at festivals. It's just pure, unpretentious energy. And they were headlining huge festivals, which shows you that timeless appeal.
It really makes you rethink the whole disposable label. If we're still talking about it, and a new generation is discovering it 30 years later, it obviously wasn't trash.
It wasn't trash at all. MMR sums it up perfectly, saying it was a feast of tech and melody that unified a world with simple, undeniable rhythm.
So as we wrap this up, I'm stuck on this question the article leaves you with. Is this all just nostalgia? Are we just romanticizing the 90s because things feel so complicated now? Or is this something more?
The author uses a phrase I love, naive heat. We live in a world that's so heavy, so complex. The news cycle is stressful. The article suggests that maybe, just maybe, we need the lightness and the meaninglessness of Eurodance again.
That's a really interesting thought. That in a world this heavy, maybe the shallow stuff is actually the most profound thing you can listen to right now.
It forces you to just stop thinking, to stop scrolling and just move. And maybe that's not a guilty pleasure. Maybe it's a survival mechanism.
I love that. So the next time you hear Rhythm of the Night, don't just roll your eyes. Think about the Berlin Wall, think about drift cars in Japan, and think about the borderless pleasure of that unstoppable beat.
And maybe let yourself dance a little.
Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll catch you on the next one.